Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello there. On the programme this evening.
He was dubbed the Beast of Birkenhead for the murder of a young woman in 1986. But Peter Sullivan could be the victim of the longest miscarriage of justice this country has ever known.
He's spent nearly 40 years in custody, in a prison in the highest secure conditions. That is going to have a significant impact on anybody.
The Manchester Arena bombing survivor who says he's broken after hearing how the bomber's brother was able to attack prison officers with cooking oil and kitchen utensils.
She's still being naughty?
No, she isn't naughty. She's autistic.
A dad's open letter to his daughter. The Blackburn family starring in a new film to make us all more accepting of autism.
We're just outside Sefton where we're planting trees, actually quite a lot of trees, but today marks a very special milestone. Find out why later in the programme.
And some parts have seen quite a bit of rain over the past 24 hours or so, but the good news is it is looking much brighter for many tomorrow. Join me later for the full forecast.
So first tonight, for almost 40 years, he's been known as the Beast of Birkenhead. But tonight, Peter Sullivan may be on the verge of becoming a free man.
He was jailed for life in 1987 for the brutal murder of a young woman called Diane Sindel. He confessed to the crime, but later retracted his statement.
Now he hopes DNA evidence taken from the scene of the attack in Birkenhead will prove he could not have been Diane's killer. If he's cleared, he'd be the victim of this country's longest ever miscarriage of justice suffered by a living inmate.
Well, I spoke to Peter Sullivan's solicitor today about the psychological impact 38 years in jail has had on him. Peter Sullivan has insisted he is innocent since he was jailed in 1987. After failed attempts to have his case looked at, the Criminal Cases Review Commission agreed to re-examine it in 2021, and the DNA of another, so far unknown man was found. So, Merseyside Police has reopened the case of Diane Sindel, who was 21 when she was sexually assaulted and beaten to death in August 1986 after leaving her job at the Wellington pub in Bebington. Her body was found on Borough Road in Birkenhead. Peter Sullivan's solicitor for the past 20 years, Sarah Myatt, is now hopeful his conviction will be quashed in a Court of Appeal hearing next month. So what was it like for him? What reaction did he have when he heard about this new DNA evidence?
Oh, he was overwhelmed. He was so pleased, and then immediately very positive in terms of next steps. It was quite significant when we were informed about the DNA evidence and the match not being with Peter. It was the breakthrough that he'd been waiting for.
What's it been like for him being in jail?
He's spent nearly 40 years in custody, in a prison in the highest secure conditions. That is going to have a significant impact on anybody. Of course it is. It's been a long time, and I think that if, and we don't know the answer to that, but if he is released at some point, then I think the true impact of that time in custody will take some time to show.
There is a memorial to Diane Sindel at the spot where she was attacked. Merseyside Police says the DNA that has been found, probably in semen samples, does not match any on the national database. The plaque says Diane was murdered because she was a woman. There remain huge questions about the man who did it. And we will, of course, bring you an update on Peter Sullivan's case when it goes to the Court of Appeal next month. Next, Martin Hibbert, the father left paralysed by the Manchester Arena bombing, says he's broken after hearing how the bomber's brother was able to attack guards at a high-security prison.
Yes, he sent an open letter to the Justice Secretary to accuse her of what he calls a catastrophic failure of duty. It comes after Hashim Abedi attacked guards at HMP Franklin in County Durham with hot oil and kitchen utensils.
There's been an angry reaction to the news, with widespread disbelief that such a dangerous prisoner could have access to items which could so easily be used as weapons.
Our reporter Emma Sweeney has more.
Well, the anger expressed by Martin Hibbert in that open letter is palpable. The word he used was furious, as he told the Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood that the pain felt by survivors of the Manchester Arena attack is being so blatantly disrespected by her inaction. It was last Saturday when Hashim Abedi, who helped his brother carry out the arena bombing, attacked 3 guards at a specialist separation unit for extremely dangerous prisoners at HMP Franklin. He used hot oil and homemade weapons from a kitchen he'd had access to. 2 of those officers are now still being treated in hospital for their injuries. This is the second time Abedi has attacked jail staff. He also targeted officers at Belmarsh Prison in London back in 2020. He's seen here in this footage just before that incident wearing a white cap. And it leaves the question, how was he able to do it not just once, but twice? Mr. Hibbert in his letter said, "I was led to believe that people like him, mass murderers, terrorists, would face a regime of strict control and zero comfort. I was told justice would be served. What I see now is not justice. It's a shameful lack of accountability and basic prison security." One former prison governor told us that the prison service is often called the forgotten service, and the attack over the weekend, she said, will have an impact on all of those working in such environments.
You can imagine that this will have a resounding effect, not only on the staff at Franklin, but around the country. And something seriously needs to be done. It's not acceptable to say, you know, how shocking it is. It's acceptable to do something about it.
Now, we've spoken to a former police officer who helped to convict Hashim Abedi. They didn't want to be named, but they told us they were not surprised by his actions, given the contempt he showed to the authorities from the moment of his arrest and extradition and throughout his trial. Abedi denied being an extremist at first, only to then make a partial confession in prison after his conviction, where he admitted helping his brother carry out the attack for Islamic State. When he was first jailed in 2020, he was given a minimum sentence of 55 years. That was then increased slightly after the attack on prison officers in Belmarsh. But the long sentence doesn't seem to have deterred him, which leaves the question, what can be done with prisoners like him?
He's a terrorist offender, and he's determined to destroy our way of life, and he's also determined to take the life of a prison officer. So we need to go down the supermax route, similar to America, where we can control, contain, and we give them the basic entitlements, nothing more.
Now, following the attack, the Ministry of Justice said it had already taken immediate action to suspend access to kitchens in separation and close supervision centres. It also said it would launch a full independent review into the attack. Mr. Hibbert, in his letter, said something drastic needs to be done now, not tomorrow, not next month, now.
Emma Sweeney reporting there, and that letter by Martin Hibbert follows another one written to the Justice Secretary by 5 of the families affected by the arena attack. Now, the 3 fathers bereaved by suicide, known as 3 Dads Walking, have announced a new fundraising trek for the summer. They'll be raising money to ensure a 24-hour helpline run by the Warrington-based suicide prevention charity Papyrus can keep operating. The 3 dads, Mike Palmer from Greater Manchester, Andy Airy from Cumbria and Tim Owen from Norfolk, will walk a circuit of the Anglesey Coastal Path in North Wales, setting off on June the 14th and aiming to cover more than 130 miles in 8 days.
Which we can all agree, I think, is quite a long way. That's quite a few steps,
Quite
isn't
a distance.
Best of luck to all of them. Well, next, a family from Blackburn are featuring in a powerful new film that's hoping to give people a better understanding of autism, which is thought to affect about 1 in every 100 people in our region.
Yes, autistic father and daughter Chris and Penny Wakeman are the stars of the film. It's been released for World Autism Acceptance Month, which runs through the whole of April, and it shows a glimpse of their daily lives.
We'll be hearing from them very soon, but first here's a quick look at that film, which takes the form of an open letter from dad to daughter.
Daddy! Can't sleep.
Close your eyes, okay? They always said I was sensitive.
Right, Penny, come on, we need to go now.
They said I was difficult.
Can I take that, please?
They said I was different. And I love that I see the same in you.
Penny, please, can you do some homework? Penny, come on, eat your breakfast, please.
I need to. She's still being naughty.
No, she isn't naughty. She's autistic. When I was a child, people didn't know about autism.
Scratchy.
No. But you're growing up in a world that's starting to understand.
Yes, it really is a lovely film, and Chris and Penny were here a short time ago with Tim Nichols from the National Autistic Society. I asked dad and daughter if they do feel the world is becoming more understanding of autism.
It's become much more of a topic that people aren't afraid to talk about. I think, you know, as a person newly diagnosed myself, it's not something that I necessarily think is a bad thing or a label that defines me, you know, in my entirety. And I think that it feels like a lot more of an, if not fully accepting world, it's a place that is at least open to having the conversation.
Penny, what was it like taking part in the campaign?
They only took small parts of what we did and put it into the actual thing, but we had to do it like 10,000 million hundred times, and it was so annoying.
For you, Chris, what was that like, taking part in the campaign?
People are just watching it and they'll pick out little moments and they'll be like, that's exactly us, even if that wasn't what the intention was, so it's great.
And Tim, in so many ways, I guess that's what it's about, is raising awareness about autism, which for many people is very misunderstood.
Absolutely. So we know from research that we've carried out that over half of autistic people feel sometimes like they can't leave the house because of how the public might perceive them or act around them. But we do also know that most members of the public actually do acknowledge that autistic people might be discriminated against in society and want to help do something about it. And so the message of It's How You Show Up is essentially just that. It's about what are the small changes that you can make to the way that you behave or react to autistic people that can really show up for them. And that's going to be important right across society.
Penny, what would you like people to know about autism and how people with autism can be helped?
Sometimes I say things, I don't mean it in the way that it sounds like I've meant it. Like, I don't mean it in the way that it sounds like I mean it in a different way, but that different way is too hard to explain.
And how would you describe yourself, Penny?
Precious. I always try to be nice and honest and kind and listen and not interrupt, but sometimes I interrupt Dad, because if I don't say what I want to say, then I'll forget and it will really irritate me.
She will often not ask for help when she needs it, and so actually that's what a huge part of like awareness raising is trying to do, is asking the grown-ups in the room to some extent to just be mindful of the fact that that young person might need that right now, and it's my responsibility to ask them if they need it, because on a neurological level they're not going to ask themselves.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, Chris and Penny were just lovely.
And she's rumbled us that we have to do everything 100,000 billion times.
Yeah, a lovely, lovely family. You can watch the whole of that film with the Wakemans on our website. The usual address, itv.com/Granada. Time for the ITV News headlines. Here's Mary.
Coming up in the ITV Evening News, the landmark ruling on the legal definition of a woman. We'll have the story and reaction. Inflation's down once again in March. Petrol prices have fueled the fall, but there's a warning, it won't last. And the deodorant comment that's triggered an apology from the British tennis star Harriet Dart. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
It's time for sport now, and the goalkeeping dilemma facing Man United's boss. Here's Mike.
Yeah, it's one of those selection headaches that isn't really a good one at the moment. Such an important decision for Manchester United's biggest game of the season. But Ruben Amorim says Andre Onana will start in the second leg of the club's Europa League quarter-final against Lyon tomorrow. Onana made some big errors in the first leg last week, which ended 2-2, and was subsequently left out of Sunday's trip to Newcastle in the Premier League. His number 2, Altay Bayındır, replaced him and conceded 4 goals. The United boss says Onana is ready.
Sometimes we talk about managing players physically. We have to manage them also mentally. But then they have to return to competition. And Onana is ready. He had one weekend that I felt that was better for him to not play, and a good thing for Altay to play. And this week, my thinking was to put Onana to play.
Well, sadly for the United boss, there's no selection dilemma about his striker Joshua Zirkzee. The Dutch forward limped off in the game against Newcastle on Sunday, and United have confirmed he's got a hamstring injury, which means he'll miss the rest of the season. Across Manchester to a major injury blow for City's women. Mary Fowler's season is over. She's ruptured her anterior cruciate ligament. The Australia international suffered the injury to her right knee during City's FA Cup semi-final loss to Manchester United at the weekend, with scans confirming she'll be out for a number of months. Into the Football League, and Carl Robinson's Salford City still have an eye on the end-of-season playoffs. They had to settle for a 1-1 draw at home to Doncaster last night. The result leaves them 4 points adrift of the League 2 playoff spots with 4 games to play. To Rugby League, and news of another serious injury. Warrington and England captain George Williams faces up to 10 weeks on the sidelines. He needs ankle surgery. The halfback's been an ever-present in Super League this season. He was injured in Saturday's defeat to Hull and will definitely miss the Wolves Challenge Cup semi-final against Leigh next month.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsor of the Granada Sport Report.
Now, it's April, it's cold and it's raining, which can mean only one thing. The cricket season is back. After Lancashire's men got their campaign underway a couple of weeks ago, the spotlight now turns to the women's team. They were back in the gym at Old Trafford today, fresh from some warm weather training abroad. There's a new look to women's cricket this year with the launch of a 3-tier system, and Lancashire are one of 8 teams in the top flight. As always, they'll play lots of games across the northwest, but this year sees a record 7 matches at Old Trafford in a boost for the women's game.
Yeah, it's a world-class ground and it's got world-class facilities as well, so we do all our training here as well. So, yeah, hopefully we can get a good crowd down to support us as well. So, yeah, it's really exciting time.
So we had a few days in Dubai to start off and then headed to Bangalore and just played loads of games of cricket, which I think is exactly what we need sort of this time of year. We've had a long winter indoors and working really hard on our skills, and it's nice to sort of be able to get the chance to put them under pressure and, yeah, get some game time, play some competitive games. So, yeah, I think we're in a really good place to start the season strong.
And it all gets underway a week today with Lancashire facing the Blaze in Nottingham. And that is your sport tonight, guys.
Mike, thanks very much.
And finally, we are always being told that trees are good for the environment.
Yes, they don't just look nice, they absorb carbon dioxide from greenhouse gases, and of course they provide a habitat for wildlife.
Which is why a scheme called the Mersey Forest is such a brilliant idea, and today it reached a very special milestone.
Our correspondent Mel Barham was near the village of Sefton to find out more.
The UK is one of Europe's least wooded nations, with much of our ancient woodland lost. But a huge project here in the northwest has been working hard to reverse that by planting trees on a staggering scale. And this is the 10 millionth tree to be planted here in Mersey Forest, marking a milestone in what's been a shared vision for a greener future.
It's an extraordinarily uplifting thing to be part of,
The Mersey Forest Partnership brings all these different partners together for the purpose of improving the landscape for the people who live here.
It all started 30 years ago as one of the UK's community forests. It's since expanded to cover an area from the north of Liverpool all the way down to East Cheshire. And as part of this latest project, 78 hectares of land has been planted with trees, the equivalent of 80 football pitches.
We've always known trees were great for health, they're great for biodiversity, they create beautiful landscapes. But more importantly now, we're realising they're very good for stopping the climate warming so much. They give us cleaner air, they help us with water storage and stop flooding. So there's lots of reasons trees are great.
And it's been quite a monumental effort. 400,000 trees were planted this winter alone, with a whole host of different varieties, from hawthorn and sycamore to Douglas fir and Scots pine. And today, volunteers were on hand to get more in the ground.
I'm intrigued how you've actually counted so many trees and know that that's the 10 millionth one. Mersey Forest is very good at record keeping.
This field used to be unused arable land. In time, the landscape will be unrecognisable.
Yeah, standing in this field today doesn't feel like you're standing in a nature-rich space, does it? But the good news here is the woods behind us were planted 15, 20 years ago, so you get a real sense of what this landscape will look like and what it will sound like and what it will smell like and feel like. Within 5 years, these trees will be as tall as you and I and bigger.
And the plan for this particular area will be a forest school, the 10 millionth tree acting as a very important centrepiece.
The 10 millionth tree will be kind of a bit of a focal point in the future. So you come back here in 10 years, there'll be kids sat around the circle having, hopefully a really, really incredible experience in this place.
Well, I couldn't come here and not plant a tree myself. So Justin, you're here to show me how to do it.
Absolutely.
So
we've dug a little hole, we've made a cut, we've got our cane ready to go. So if you want to pop the roots down into there, make sure they're nice embedded in, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if I hold this against the cane here, would you like to heel that in? There we go, and on this side as well, please.
Okay. Glad I got my boots on.
Lovely, thank you very much. And what we'll do is plant a guard over this, and then we've got a nice, healthy, happy tree.
Brilliant stuff. And how long is it going to take for that to get sort of above me?
Well, that should take about 5 years, maybe a bit less time, and then hopefully it'll be growing here for many, many decades to come.
Brilliant stuff. I'll have to come back in 5 years' time
check on it.
Yeah, see what it's like.
Absolutely.
The ultimate aim of this project is to provide 30% tree cover across the northwest in the next 10 years. A set of strong green lungs that's set to make all of our lives better. Mel Barham, ITV News, Sefton.
In many years to come, Mel will be able to tell her grandchildren that
Saving
I
the
planted
planet.
that tree. She did it.
Here's the weather now with Amanda.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello again. Well, overall, it's been a fairly grotty day for many of us. Cloudy with outbreaks of rain in places. But the good news is it is looking a lot better for many of us tomorrow. So mostly dry on Thursday with some bright or sunny spells. But make the most of it. Looks like we'll see that rain returning on Friday. So low pressure brought all of the rain throughout today. It continues to pull its way northwards tonight, and then you can see we're in between two weather systems on Thursday. So for most of us, a good deal of dry and bright weather tomorrow. That's before the next system sweeps off the Atlantic on Good Friday, bringing further spells of rain. Now back to the rest of this evening and tonight. We're quite messy out there. We've got a mix, clear skies, so there will be some mist and murk around and still a few showers. Though eventually those winds will start to ease off, and by the end of the night for most of us becoming drier out there. So maybe be a touch of frost in one or two places too. So for tomorrow morning, we'll still one or two showers around, but for most of us, a good deal of bright or sunny spells to kick off the day. As it starts to warm up, we'll see one or two showers in places, but for most of us, it's going to be dry. The winds much lighter than what they have been out there today. So not feeling too bad temperature-wise either. We're expecting highs this time up to around 13 or 14 degrees. And then looking further ahead, as I mentioned earlier, as we move into the Easter weekend, we've got low pressure dominating. Now, it's not a complete washout. There will be some dry and bright spells for many of us, but take your brolly if you are heading out and about. Further showers or longer spells of rain at times. So here's how it's looking then. A few showers here and there, sunny spells in between, and temperatures just a little bit above average for the time of year. I'll see you a bit later on. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
It's not a complete washout. That's it from both of us. Bye-bye.